Welcome to this second session of 4th Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. We start with gratitude towards the Lord and this Guru Shishya Parampara through which this knowledge is protected, preserved and transmitted. Pay my respects to Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and share this understanding with you. Let us start with the prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Bharavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So 4th Adhyaya is also the description of Karma Yoga with a little different perspective. So let us recapitulate the 3rd Adhyaya where Lord Krishna talks about the different attitudes of Karma Yoga, and let us revise them again. One is the Ishwaratpana Bhav, means surrender to the Lord. Whatever work we do with surrender bhavana and with for the prasannata, for the happiness of the Lord. Whatever we are doing is to please the Lord as if it is an order of the Lord, because He is the master and He has given me this role or this responsibility with which I should fulfill with my utmost dedication and diligence, and I should work in all my spheres, in all my roles as a nimitta bhav, as an instrument, rather than having a strong karta bhava or a kartrutva. I should work with an instrument that I am the passage or I am the channel through which this work is being done, rather than I am doing it, I can do it, rather than having this kind of a pride or egotism. Also, I should do all this work as my duty, which is given to me as my different roles in my life and my responsibility, rather than my right or mera haq. It's better to do it as a duty. And finally, whenever I get the fruits, the results, the outcomes of all my actions, whatever I get, I should accept gracefully, respectfully, and should share it with others. So the 4th Adhyaya is Gnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. It means renunciation of action through knowledge, because of knowledge, by knowledge, and this knowledge is nothing but the knowledge of the self, the Atma Jnana, which Lord Krishna talks throughout Bhagavad Gita. So the first session we saw the incarnations of the Lord. In the first shloka it starts with the Guru Shishya Parampara, as it starts with the Lord and how He passed on this message through the Sun God to Vigaswan, Manu, and then finally to others. And then Lord Shri Krishna talks about the incarnation, how God takes birth or takes form on this universe. When does it take form? What is the purpose of the incarnations? All these has been discussed in the first session. So today in the second session we are going to talk more about the Nishkam Karma Yoga and the Gnani. And then finally in the third session there will be actions of the yogi and the virtues. And then fourth session will be on all the yagnas. There are 12 yagnas which Shri Krishna describes, and then finally he says that the Gnan Yagna is the Shrestha, is the best of all. And in the last part of the 4th Adhyaya, the Gnan, the Atma Jnana is being worshipped, how we can obtain this. Guruji, unki mahima kya hai, what kind of a guru is an ideal guru, and about Shishya also, what kind of a Shishya is an ideal Shishya. Shraddhavan Labhate Gnanam, and Guruji ka jo shlok hai, that is called Tadvidvi Pranipatena Praniprashnena Sevaya. So all this will come in the final part of the 4th Adhyaya. So let us start with the 10th shloka of the 4th Adhyaya. Vitaraga Paya Krodha Manmaya Mamupashritaha Bahavo Jnana Tapasa So this is a beautiful shloka which gives us the entire captures the entire spiritual journey, Adhyatma Sadhana, and each aspects, each steps of the Adhyatma Sadhana has been captured here. Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha means one who has conquered their attachments. Vitaraga, attachments, passions, and Bhaya, fear, and Krodha, anger. Essentially means that we have conquered our Asuri Sampatti, and this cleanses our mind, our inner senses, which is called Antakarana Shuddhi, and this is the most important thing for the sadhaka, because most of the time of the Adhyatma Sadhana goes in purification, because in an impure mind there cannot be Atma Jnana. It is not the right place for imbibing Atma Jnana. If one's spectacles or glasses are covered by dirt, one cannot see. So Chakshu cannot work, the Indriya Pramana cannot work, and that's how, if the mind is not pure, Atma Jnana cannot come into this mind. And this mainly happens because of Karma Yoga. There is a main sadhana for Antakarana Shuddhi. Second, Shri Krishna says Manmaya, one who wants to become one with me, who is all the time involved in me. For one who, he says, I am the goal, I am the main purpose of life, one who is God loving. So that signifies the Dhyaya Nishtha, the commitment to the goal, which is very important in this sadhana. Even in worldly achievements, commitment to our goal is very, very important. If we don't have a committed goal, then our life just goes astray or haywire. Mam upashritaha. This means that one who is surrendered to me. God says, one who is a devotee, who has surrendered to me. And then he says, Bahavaha jnana tapasa putaha. That means many. Bahava means many. Many is a plural form. Who have become pious due to the fire or the discipline of knowledge. And it is said that this jnana is the biggest tapa, is the biggest penance. Because one has to go through this long, arduous path, the jnana nishtha, to obtain this jnana. It's not easy. And that's why one has to go through this long path, do a lot of sadhana to obtain the Atma Jnana, to understand, to change our sanskaras by Shravana, Manana and a Nididhyasana. And then finally it is said that once Atma Jnana comes, it is the fire which burns all the karma, all the papa, everything gets burned in this. So it is so pious, that's why it's considered to be very pious. All the papa can be burned, all the sins are burned in this. In the further shlokas of the fourth adhyaya, Lord Krishna says, Jnana dagdha karmana. So Jnana is such an Agni which will burn all the karmas. Madbhavam agataha, who has attained my own real self. And that oneness is the Aikya, that is the moksha, the liberation, is the final destination, final step of the Adhyatma Sadhana, to achieve oneness with this universal consciousness, to let go of all our inhibitions, our identifications, all our beliefs. We have to change, and with this we can achieve one with the universal consciousness. So this is entire complete spiritual sadhana, which has already been described earlier. From karma, we have to go from akarma to karma, dharma karma, kartavya karma, and then finally karma yoga nishtha. And this leads to shuddhi, then it leads to the gnana yoga nishtha. The gnana sadhana starts, and the Jnana Sadhana finally ends in Jnana Nishtha. And this Jnana Nishtha, Atma Jnana, the Brahmakar Vritti which develops, and finally the Brahma Jnana, the Atma Jnana, which removes this shield of ignorance, Ashuddhi, from us and gives us the final outcome of moksha or mukti, or emancipation from all the worldly afflictions, freedom from all our miseries, affections. So that is the ultimate goal of the spiritual aspirant. Vita raga bhaya krodha. Vita means we must let go. And the spiritual journey is a path of letting go of a lot of things. In the worldly aspirations, when we live in the world, we want to achieve something, we have to acquire something. But in the spiritual dimension and the realms, we have to let go of a lot of things to achieve something. Even if we want to achieve the spiritual upliftment, we have to let go. So here, The raga is attachment to our people, to our persons, our family, our kith and kins, objects, and this can only be relieved by karma yoga, samatva yoga, buddhi yoga. Means by understanding we can let go of this. Bhaya, fear of many things. We all have some or the other kinds of fear. Some may be having fear of some insecurities about their name, about their about their identity, about a lot of things in life. We have fear for losing our possessions, for diseases. We have fear for death. So there are a lot of things, and fear itself means that it is unreal. It is not real, because something that is real cannot have fear. Krodha. Krodha is one of the main Asuri Sampati, one of the main enemies. In 3rd Adhyaya, Lord Krishna says, Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Rajo Guna Samudbhavaha, Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhyena Miha Vairina. Means that Krodha and Kama, and desires is the root of the Krodha. Because if desires are not fulfilled, then we become angry with that particular person or with that particular situation. So it is like our enemy, and it is like a fire which burns not only our own self but also burns the others and does not give us any peace of mind. That's why krodh or anger in all ways is completely deprecated. It can never be justified. No amount of anger can be justified, except our Guruji says that if we become angry for the benefit of, say, our child or our colleague, and that anger is within our control, that is the only situation where that anger can be justified. But most of the times anger is not in our control. We become angry and then we take a little bit more time to get back our peace of mind. That means that we don't have control over our anger. If we have control over our anger, then within a fraction of a moment we will be back to our normal and we won't have the same peace of mind. So in the Adhyatma Sadhana, in the spiritual journey, the Sadhan Chatushtaya Sampatti is considered to be very important, because that gives us the worthiness, the eligibility, the suitability for accepting this Atma Jnana. And the Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti is the first part of the journey, which starts with Viveka. Viveka is a discriminative intellect, something that is a right understanding. And this only some Shastra, some Guruji only can tell us, who is learned. That only can tell us how we can perceive or how we can understand the events, situations, people, the circumstances of life and all the events in life. So that is the Viveka. So with this understanding, we must do Viveka about what is our goal in life, what we want to achieve in life, what is the things that we need to give importance to, what is the things that we don't need to give importance to. Viveka regarding what is Dharma, what is Adharma, what is the right thing to do, what is not the right thing to do. Viveka regarding what is Satya, what is Mithya, what is permanent, what is temporary in life, what is permanent we must give more attention, what is temporary we should just ignore. Vivek regarding what is Atma, what is Anatma, what is consciousness, what is not consciousness. So all these understanding we need to get. And then with Viveka, through Viveka Dwara, we must get the Vairagya, because with this right understanding we know that this worldly things are not that important for me, then I can leave or let go of those possessions. So that Vairagya, it is not a Dukkha Purvak Vairagya as our Guruji tells us. Dukkha Purvak Vairagya is a very temporary Vairagya, it's not a matured Vairagya. Whereas this Vairagya, which is Vivek Janya Vairagya, that is through Viveka, it is a more matured Vairagya, it is a more subtle, more Sahaj Vairagya. Third is the Shama Adi Shat Sampatti. Shama Adi Shat Sampatti is also important on this mark for Indriya Sanyam and Mumukshutva. Mumukshutva is the desire, not just a desire but an intense desire for mukti, freedom. That is something which is important. So Shama Adi Shat Sampatti includes Shama. Shama is a Mano Nigraha, that is a control of the mind, and through which we have to achieve control of the senses or the Indriya, that is called Dhamma. So Shama, Dhamma, Uparati. Uparati means Vyarth, Vyavhar, Karma Vyavhar se Nivrutti. We should start avoiding useless activities. So avoid the avoidable is what our Guruji tells us. That is a golden statement. Avoid the avoidable. We should always ask whether this is avoidable rather than doing it, and then we should try and avoid this. Vyarth karma se nivrutta kol. Fourth is Titiksha. Titiksha is Sahanashilita. We know that the Swabhava, the nature of this world, Prakriti, is Dvandvatmak, means dualistic. So sometimes I'll feel good, sometimes I'll not feel good, sometimes I'll be happy, sometimes I'll be sad, sometimes I'll be very sukhi, dukhi. Sometimes somebody will praise me, sometimes people will criticize me, sometimes I get success, sometimes I get failures. So all these dualities are part and parcel of life. They are like two sides of the same coin, and that's why I must accept both in the same stride. And that is only possible with titiksha. Only with titiksha we can reach to a stage of samatva bhavana. By endurance only we can develop this sahaj samatva. Shraddha. Shraddha is also considered very important. Faith in this spiritual dimension. Faith on Ishvara, faith on Guru, and faith on the Vedanta Shastra. Because whatever we have to learn is through these three things. And finally, Samadhana. Samadhana is also important. Chitta Ekagrata. Focus, concentration, putting the mind or chitta in one particular area. So all this requires training, some kind of focus, concentration, requires some kind of training of the mind, because by nature mind is very chanchala. It is all outgoing, it is all bahirmukha and chanchala. So we need to train and fine tune the mind. So there are different sadhana, and these sadhana can help us on this spiritual journey. These are the sadhana. Karma yoga, as we know, is the first sadhana which takes care of the ashuddhi of our mind and purifies the mind and gives us the antakarana shuddhi, that is the phala. Bhakti yoga takes care of our chanchalata, that too much of chanchalness in the mind, or too much of it makes the mind more focused, more concentrated, ekagra. Ashtanga yoga by Patanjali Muni. Ashtanga yoga is a yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana and samadhi. So all these 8 are considered as Ashtanga yoga. So they take care of our irregular lifestyle, the aniyamit jivan shaili, and make it more regular, so it becomes more niyamit, and it makes our body also much more flexible. It makes our mind also flexible. It makes our pran and the man also shant, and it causes much better conducive personality for attaining this Atma Jnana. And fourth is the Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga takes care of our Jnana, ignorance, which is the root cause of most of the tragedies and miseries that we have in our life, and gives us the Atma Jnana through which we can achieve moksha or liberation. And this path is not something very new, that we need to create something. In worldly dimension, it is said that innovation is very good, because that is a beauty. One should innovate, otherwise we will perish. And most organizations which are most successful, like Apple, like Google, like Facebook, are the companies which keep innovating in the world. But here in the Adhyatma Sadhana, innovations has no role. We don't have to create any new thing. It's all the same path that has been walked upon by generations, by sages, munis, rishi munis, guru, shishya, and so many others who have walked on this path. We have to keep walking on the same path, and then we will reach our goal. So here we don't have to create anything new. So Jnana Nishtha involves 3 main sadhanas. The first is a Shravana. Shravana is listening to the Upanishada Mahavakyas from a learned guru. Second is Manana. That means after Shravana there will be some doubts in our mind, and we have to clear these doubts, and then this is by yukti, by logic, and this helps us to assimilate or accept this in our mind. Once it is accepted by our mind, the next step is nididhyasana. Means we have to assimilate in our life, and this is by changing the past impressions, and which are very contrary to what has been given in our shastras. So this requires some kind of a meditation, dhyana, chintan, and lot of introspection, self-introspection. So with this nididhyasana we can actually assimilate in our life. Next shloka. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tanstathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah. So here Lord Krishna answers this question, why so few people come on this spiritual path. And he says, "Oh Arjuna, ye yatha mam prapadyante. The devotee who invokes me, worships me in whichever way he can. Somebody likes to worship Bhagwan as Lakshmi Devi because they only worship the wealth. So Bhagwan says, I give them what they want. Somebody worships them as Saraswati as knowledge. Says Bhagwan says, I give them whatever they want. So whatever people they worship, Tans tathaiva bhajami aham. I bless them in the same way, according to their prayers, according to their karma. But finally he says that Manushya sarvashah mama vartam anuvartante. So all human beings, they follow my path. Ultimately they all come towards me. It is like all rivers finally go and merge into the ocean. And because we all human beings want sukha, bliss, happiness, joy. We want such kind of sukha, happiness always. We want freedom. We don't want to be controlled by others. So this is what we want. And this sukha that we desire is not a temporary sukha, because temporary sukha we have anubhava, we have experience in the worldly objects or possessions. But this sukha is very temporary, whereas what we want is an eternal sukha, always happiness, ever happiness. And this eternal bliss can only be available in the Atma Gnana and in the Paramatma. And that's why Lord here says that all humans, they follow my path, they ultimately come to me in whichever way they choose, whatever. There are many religions, many different paths, and people choose different paths according to their own belief systems, their own shraddha, their own faith. And finally all these paths merge to the Supreme. So essentially, though we may be seeing that people are all going on different directions, but finally all these directions merge only to the same place. And that is what Bhagavan Shri Krishna is trying to tell us in this shloka. So he says most want this world, very few want him. And that's why they get this world, because most of the people just desire, when they go to the Lord also, when they join hands in front of the God, they ask for worldly objects or possessions, and that's what Bhagavan says, that I give it to them and I satisfy them. Kangshantah karmanam siddhim yajantah iha devataha kshipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. So here again Shri Krishna answers this question, why everyone does not desire for mukti or freedom, but people want to do karma. They are all involved in their karma actions, but very few people like to obtain the Atma Gnana or knowledge. This says, Kangshanta karmanam siddhim. Most people desire fruits of karma. They don't desire moksha. Devata yajanta. They worship different deities for karma, karma phala, some worldly pleasures, sense pleasures. Because in this human world, he says, the reason also he gives, the results of action are achieved much more quickly. Karmaja siddhi shipram bhavati, he says. He says, because the results of the action are achieved, of the karma are achieved much more quickly, that is what people want. That's why they do not seek this knowledge path. Our Guruji also explains us that we have a fascination with quick results. That is the nature of human beings, and that's why we need immediate results. And that's what karma promises. At the end of the month, we get, or at the end of the, we get immediately some result, tangible result in the form of either some, some wealth or some money check, paycheck or whatever. And sometimes we get praise, or sometimes for the work we get a pat on the back. So all these results of karma are immediate. But the journey, on the other hand, of knowledge path is very long, arduous, and it needs a lot of preparation to clear our antakarana, to purify our mind. And this is a long and arduous journey, and that's why most people don't want that, don't prefer that, because most of the people don't have patience. They just want immediate results. The other reason is that the results of karma are very tangible, much more seen. Whereas results of gnana, even though it is a longer path, more arduous path, the results are quite subtle. They are not in terms of tangible, in terms of you can count or you can see. But here it is more like a peaceful mind, emotionally, one becomes quieter, one uses more of understanding, intellect to take decisions, one becomes more aware of the surroundings. So these are all the results of the gnana path, but which are not tangible. And our impressions, our past sanskara is that by doing something we achieve something. But in the knowledge path, we don't have to do something to achieve something. We just have to sit, we have to think to achieve something. So we are not tuned to working like that just by thinking we can achieve something. But since childhood we have been said, मेहनत करो, कुछ मिल जाएगा आपको, कुछ मिलेगा. आप प्रयत्न करो, मेहनत करते रहो. So we think that if we do something, we will achieve something. But on knowledge part, people will have to change their thinking patterns, their lifestyle, their personalities, their belief systems completely, because in the knowledge path, when the knowledge of the Atmagnan is given to us, the beliefs are very contrary to what we generally believe. And that's why we need to create disruptive changes in our lifestyles. Whereas on the worldly path, we accept or we possess something and we gain, we achieve something. Whereas on the spiritual path, we let go something and we achieve something. So this is how the worldly path and the spiritual path are quite different. The next shloka, Shri Bhagavan Krishna says about the Chatur Varnyam Maya Srushtam Gunakarma Vibhagashah Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidya Kartaram Avyayam. So it talks about the Vedic Parampara, the Varnashram Vyavastha, or the caste system. He talks about Vedic Dharma which has been shown by Bhagavan in the Vedas. And he says, I have created Chatur Varnyam Maya Srushtam. This Chatur Varna Srushti, all this universe I have created, and I have also created this Varna system, the Varna Vyavastha, the caste system, and the 4 ashramas for spiritual goal of the individual. So for the balance of the society, he created this Chatur Varnyam Maya Srushtam. And it says Guna Karma Vibhaga Yoga, according to the qualities, the 3 gunas and the karmas, not by according to the birth. That is what he has created. He says, Tasya Kartaram Apimam. He says, even though I am the creator of this Chatur Varna Maya Srushtam, Avyayam Akartaram Viddhi. You consider me as a non-doer, that I am not done. He says, though I am the doer, I am the creator, you consider that I am not the doer, I am not the creator. So it is quite contradictory. We need to understand how is this possible. Though he is, initially also he had said, Ajo api sanveva atma ajaha api. Even though I am unborn, I am born, I take form. Here also it says, even though I am the creator, I am not the creator. So we need to understand what Bhagavan tries to tell us. And let us understand this a little bit in more details, because this caste system of ours has been abused by us only without understanding what was this all about. And Bhagavan Shri Krishna or God himself has no ego, or there is no doership feeling involved. There is no kartrutva, and that's why they are not, they don't have bandhana or bondage with these actions. So let us understand this Vaidika Varnashram Vyavastha. It consisted of 4 Varnas, or Varnas basically the caste system, and this was made for the balance in the society. And the 4 types of people were Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. So these were the 4 types of Varnas. And then there was another system called the Ashrama Vyavastha. This was meant for the individual person, and this involved Brahmacharya Ashram, Gruhastha Ashram, Vanprastha Ashram and Sannyasa Ashram. So these are the 4 Ashram Vyavastha. So basically all these had a Samanya Dharma which was equal for everyone. And then there was a Vishesh Dharma based on whether you are in the Brahmana and you are a Brahmacharya, then your Dharma is different. So similarly, based on the Varna and the Ashrama, there was Dharma for individual person also. So this was called the Vishesh Dharma. And according to the Lord, he says Guna Karma Vibhaga Yasha. So according to him, he has made this system based on Guna and Karma Vibhaga. So Guna is basically our qualities, our attributes which are in the mind. So Bhagavan is not making sthula, just like Janma. Janma is a very sthula thing because it involves a gross body. So God has not made this Ashram Vyavastha, Varna Vyavastha according to the Janma. That's what he clearly says. Though it was these human beings who made this from Janma, that if Brahman is born in a Brahman family, he is a Brahman. This is what we all have done. Bhagavan has not created this. He made this out of Guna and Karma Vibhaga. So Guna means Brahmana has their own Guna and Brahmana have their own Karma, and so we will come to that and just try and understand. So basically Brahmanatva are basically Brahmana are Sattva predominant. Of course, they may be having Rajas and Tamas also in small proportion, but they are predominantly Sattva Guna Pradhana. So people who are Sattva Guna Pradhana can be called as Brahmana according to the Lord. So they are knowledge predominant people. So they were entrusted with the responsibility of learning and passing on to the next generation and protecting the scriptures and the knowledge parampara. Kshatriyas are mainly Rajas Guna, but they also have Sattva Guna, and that's why they are more selfless, and they may be also having some part of the Tamasa Guna also. But they are predominantly in karma. So karma, because they are the people who are interested with the responsibilities of protecting the country. So they are the Kshatriyas. The Vaishyas are also Rajas Guna predominant, but here they have less of Sattva Guna, more of Raja and some part of the Tama also. So they are involved in the business and they are more self-centered people. So Vaishya. And fourth is the Shudra, who are predominant Tamas. They are the followers, they are the workers, they are not the leaders. So this was the kind of the Varna Vyavastha which was predominant in the Vedic era more than 10,000 years ago. But this was made on the Guna and the Karma Vibhaga. So it does not mean that somebody who is born, the idea was that even though we are a Shudra or a follower, we should evolve. As a man evolves, we should evolve into Vaishya, Kshatriya and finally into Brahmanatva category. So here the evolution of the man was given a primary importance. In any society, there are such four distinctions. There is no society, there is no country which does not have these four distinctions. Even today, there are people who are intellectuals, who are the thought leaders of the community, who are the scholars, who are the teachers, the professors, the researchers, the scientists. So all these are the Brahmana category. And then there are people who protect the countrymen or people, the police, the army, the Central Reserve Police Force, a lot of the border security force. All this will come under the Kshatriyas, because they are the protectors, all the security people, everybody will be Kshatriya. Vaishyas are the business community, those who do entrepreneurs, those who do their business, they follow their business, they do business administration, they manage their businesses, all these are Vaishyas. And Shudras are the workers. Essentially, we need workers to work. Everybody cannot be leaders, so there has to be workers who will work and produce something. So these four categories are even today present. It's not that this was based on the Janma, but it was based on the Guna and the Karma Vibhaga. And based on Guna and Karma Vibhaga, these kind of distinctions even today are present in most of the living societies in the world over. And the four ashramas that were described in our scriptures or practiced was for the individual upliftment. So initially the Brahmacharya ashram, where the first 20 or 25 years the child goes to a Gurukul and he learns many types of vidyas, knowledge, and that makes a roadmap for him how to live his life according to the dharma, according to the values that he learns, according to the skills that he learns, and he bases his entire life based on the dharma, because he learns the scriptures, he knows what is to be done, what is not to be done, what is dharma, what is not to be done. So all these moral values, life skills is all learned during the childhood, which is the first 20 to 25 years of age. The second 20 to 25 years of age is for the Gruhastha, the householder, and that's why there was this arranged marriage system also. So at the time he comes back from the Gurukula, he gets married and goes into the Gruhastha ashrama. So this is mainly an action-oriented system and mainly meant for the family, so that he becomes more selfless. He thinks about others, just does not think about himself, but he has a wife or a husband, so he or she has to think about that spouse. And then they have children, so they also have to think about them. They have to spare time, energy, money, wealth for others. So basically idea was for the upliftment of the mankind. And then they practice dharma in their practical life, because they have to earn money. Artha, Kama, Purushartha also is based, but this is all based on the Dharma Purushartha. And so they have to take care of other species, other beings also, and aim for upliftment. The third ashrama for the next 20 to 25 years is the Vanprastha ashrama, which is more of winding up whatever we have created during our Grihastha ashrama. We have developed some new business, developed a lot of things. Now we have to start Sankhelvana, meaning we have to start winding up, because we have to prepare to let go of things gradually, because one day everything we have to let go. So we have to start preparing. This is the preparedness. We have to go more inwards. Bhakti is the predominant sadhana here, and it is not necessary that Vanprastha means that we have to go into the vana or go into the forest. But even staying in the home, in the Gruhastha ashrama, in the home also we can stay and live like a hermit. So that is what is the Vanprastha. And then finally the sannyasa. Sannyasa is to let go everything and then to focus the rest of the years, the final years of life, for self-knowledge, that is Atma-jnana. So this is also predominantly based on Atma-jnana or self-knowledge. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phale spruha iti mam yo vijanati karma birna sabadhyate. So Lord Krishna says here, one who has clear knowledge of Ishvara in the real sense is not bound by his actions. It says mam karmani na limpanti. Ishvara says, Bhagavan says, my actions don't mind me and I don't get bound by my karmas. So this is what he says, Name karma phale spruha. I have no attachments to the fruits of the action, whatever. And that's why when he said, Janma karma cha me divyam, my karma are divya, because it says here in the 14th shloka, in the 9th shloka it said Janma karma cha me divyam. Here he says, Namam karmani limpanti name karma phale spruha. So karma does not bind me. Karma phala, I don't have any asakti or attachment for karma phala. This is talking from his Atma Swarupa, his real self. Iti mam yo vijanati. In this way, if somebody knows me clearly, that I am the akarta, I am not the doer, and I am the abhokta swarup, I am not the enjoyer. Whatever I am doing, I am not the doer or enjoyer. Karma bihi na badhyate. He does not get bound by actions, because he knows that if God has this, is in Atma Swarupa, he will also have Vichar, Vivek, he will also do the Jnana Sadhana and understand that my own self is also the same Atma Swarupa. And in that sense, from the Atma Swarupa point of view, if I take all these upadhi away from me, the form, the name, the shape, and all these subtle and the gross bodies and everything, if I take everything away, then upadhi drashti says rahit hokar, if I just have the Atma Drashti, then me and the Lord are not different, we are one and the same. So this is how we will understand that we will also not be attached to karma, we will also not be bounded by karma, as God is also not bounded by his own karma. Evam gnatva krutam karma purvairapi mumukshubhihi guru karmeva tasmatvam purvai purvataram krutam. So in this shloka, Shri Krishna says, by knowing me in this way, evam gnatva, this Swarupa, Akarta, Abhokta, Asanga, Satchit, Ananda, this is my real self. If by knowing me in this way, Purvaihi api mumukshi krutam karma. The seekers of the ancient times performed their actions for mumuksha, for liberation, for moksha. Tasmat tvam kuru karmatvam. So he says clearly to Arjuna, that's why Arjuna, you have to do your actions, your prescribed duties. Just because I am showing you this Jnana Swarupa does not mean that you have to leave this battleground and go for Jnana. You have to do your karma, karmatvam, kuru karmatvam. There is a call for Arjuna to do his karma yoga properly, and says how, just as purvaihi purvataram krutam, just as your forefathers have done this selflessly, nishkam karma, and this is how you have to do the karma. Don't think that these are your own. Think what is the right thing for you to do, and then you go into the Yuddha Bhumi or the battleground. So essentially what Lord Krishna is trying to tell us is that from sakama karma, selfish actions that we are all involved in day to day, we should go more towards nishkam karma, that is selfless action, and then finally we have to obtain the jnana and be what is called as akama. From karma we have to go to shuddhi and then to go to jnana. So that is the link that Lord Krishna is showing us. Kim karma kima karmyati kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami ajnatva mokshase shubha. So he says here, he shows us the true meaning of what is karma and akarma. He says kim karma kim akarma iti, what is action and what is actionlessness. Kavayah api mohita, even the most intelligent scholars, kavi, the sages, most learned people also become confused. They get mudita, they get moha, they get attached, they get delusions. They don't know what is action, what is actionlessness or inaction. Tat karma te pravakshyami. So I shall tell you all about karma in a very, very comprehensive way, he says. Yat gnatva moksha se ashubhat. So knowing which you shall be liberated from all these ashubh, sinful activities, sinful world, and you shall achieve freedom or moksha. So let us understand this, what is trying to say. Again, the next shloka, Shri Krishna says, Karmano yapi bodhavyam, bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha, akarmanascha bodhavyam, gahana karmano gatihi. Says, Karmana api bodhavyam, means action. What the Vedas tell me to do, what is vidhi, or it is prescribed by Vedas, is worth knowing. Its real nature is worth knowing. Vikarmana cha abodhavyam means what is forbidden, that action which is not allowed by the Vedas or which is nishiddha by the Vedas, is also worth knowing, vikarmana. And akarmana is also worth knowing. Akarmana means inaction or actionlessness, is also worth knowing. He says all three, karmana, vikarmana, akarmana, all three are worth knowing. And then finally says karmanaha gatihi gahana, gahana karmano gatihi. So that means that the nature of this karma, to understand karma is not easy. He says it's very deep. It is difficult to understand the real depth of the karma, and that understanding is very difficult even for the scholars, he says. So let us understand this akarma, which the new word which has been coined by Shri Krishna. It is very, very important to understand, because without that we can't understand the meaning of all these shlokas. In simple terms, absence of any movement means akarma. In simple terms, karma means movement, actions, and akarma means absence of movement. This is how we understand colloquially. So it essentially means being in inaction or being actionless, and that essentially means either being lazy, not doing some action. So that is the simple meaning, but that is not the true meaning what Lord Krishna says. But according to his vision, just absence of movement is not akarma. By being in action also one can be in akarma. So how is that possible? By being in action, you are in action, but still you say you are in akarma. How is it possible? Because for the wise, the way they know, they understand that they are not this body, they are not this senses, they are not this complex, they are not this jad chit granthi. What they are is they are sthit in their Atma Swarupa, which is akarta, which is akarma, which is the non-doer. There is a static, there is no karma involved in the Atma Swarupa. So this is the understanding of the wise person. So while in action or in inaction, whether they are doing movements or they are just sitting in silence, the wise person is already sthit in his akarta Atma Swarupa, which is akarma. And that's why we can say that even though the wise person or the gnani is in karma or he is in akarma, he is sthit in akarma or akarta Atma Swarupa. So, but the unwise, on the contrary, even while he is in action, he is in karma, but when he is sitting in silence also, when there is a bhav of karma, also he keeps thinking about the karmas, about what is going to happen, about he has a lot of anxieties, what can happen, what should I do, all this confusion, all this clutter, everything keeps on happening in the mind. This clutter in the mind is also karma, because according to karma, all thoughts, all these are also karma. So this is how we can distinguish what is karma, what is akarma, how the wise perceives karma, how the unwise perceives karma. Karmanya karmayah paschet karmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta rutsna karma kruta. It's a little difficult shloka to understand, but it's important to understand this shloka. It says yah karmani akarma paschet, one who sees action in inaction, and jaya akarmani karma, one who sees inaction in action. So while in action, the gnani is already sthit in the akarma Atma Swarupa. So even though they are in action, they see inaction. So this person is a buddhiman manushyeshu, is an intelligent, wise person. Sayukta, krutsna karma kruta. In reality, is a yogi, is a viveki, is a yukta. Yukta is a word which is very much liked by Shri Krishna means that somebody who has become an yogi, he's become an Indriya Sanyami, he is not into the senseless or sensual pleasures. And this wise person, he has performed all actions and he feels complete. Karma kritsna karma kruta means he has a completeness, feeling of fulfillment. So he is not, desirous of getting a lot of things from outside because he is fulfilled in his own self. So that is finally Ajnana Nivrutti, which occurs with Gnana, which leads to Moksha. And this is what is the understanding for Ajnan, is at the root cause of most of the problems, most of the issues. Basically, there are sanskaras or impressions which drive us to our karma. And then with the karma we have a kartrutva. And then we also get karma phala. When we get karma phala, again the new sanskaras are created. And then again this chakra keeps on happening, sansara chakra, karma, kartrutva, bhoktrutva, karma phala, and then sanskara. And unless ajnana is eliminated, we cannot get out of this sansar chakra. Only a gnani does only karma, but while he is in karma, he is in akarma, because he is sthit in his Atma Swarupa, and that's why he is in karma. He is not having any kartrutva, doesn't create any new sanskaras, and doesn't have this birth life cycle which keeps on happening for the Gnani. So that is the main difference between the Gnani and the Ajnani Purusha. To summarize, for the Ajnani or the unwise or the ignorant person, Pravrutti and Nivrutti both are karma. Because in Pravrutti he is in karma obviously, but while he is sitting in silence also he is thinking, and this also is a kind of karma. But for the wise, both Pravrutti and Nivrutti both are akarma, because even while he is in Pravrutti or he is in Nivrutti, he is sthit in his Atma Swarupa, which is akarta or which is akarma. So this is the main difference between the two. Karma happens in the body-mind complex. The anatma is the kshetra where karma happens. It is all temporary, whereas the true self, the atma, is akarma or akarta swarupa. It is asanga. And the main message that Lord Krishna wants to give us in this is that while doing our kartavya karma, our duties, we must always have a vision on our akarta atma swarupa, and that is something that we should always have. So with this, we come to the end of this second session. Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga means renunciation of karma by obtaining self-knowledge, and then finally leads to freedom or moksha. And just like our scriptures tell us that we don't have to pluck the karma out, that means we don't have to do karma tyag prematurely, but it is when the flower becomes a fruit which is unripened and then it becomes a ripened fruit, and then it falls off automatically by itself. So this is how karma should actually fall off. When they become enough matured, they will fall off by themselves. Shastras don't give us the order to leave karma, but they only give us the permission to leave karma when there is a maturity in the mind, when we don't need to achieve anything from this world. By our karma, we have already achieved everything. We have achieved purification of our mind, antakarana shuddhi, and then finally when we go to Atma Jnana, when we get this Atma Jnana, this karma will fall off by itself. And this Sahaja Karma Tyag or Karma Sannyas is through Gnana, and this is so that also doesn't mean that karma is Tyag. Karma has to be let go. But what is let go or what is Tyag, Tajya, is the Kartrutva which goes away, and the Bija or the Sanskaras that are created. And the Karma Phala Sanyoga is also let go. So this is what is the difference. With this we come to the end of this session. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parah Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.